On today's podcast, we sit down with Karan Bhatnagar, digital strategy expert and a driving force behind Hook, the revolutionary music platform shaking up the industry. Karan gives us an insider look at how Hook is using ethically built AI to empower artists, creators, and fans, from remixing hit songs to expanding artist revenue streams in this new age of social media-driven music consumption. We explore the future of streaming, the challenges of securing music licenses with major labels, and the game-changing opportunities for emerging artists to gain global visibility. Karan also shares real success stories and practical advice for anyone looking to break into the music business. Insiders, this conversation redefines how music will be created, shared, and monetized. You won't want to miss it. Insiders, are you ready?
Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight. Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's episode, we sit down with Karan Bhatnagar, a digital strategist and the forward-thinking force behind Hook. If you've ever wondered how social media, AI, and remix culture are reshaping the music landscape, this is the conversation you can't afford to miss. We break down how Hook is pioneering streaming 2.0, opening up new revenue streams, and giving artists and rights holders unprecedented control over their music in the social age. Karan shares insider stories about how major labels and independent artists alike are navigating the challenges of licensing, monetization, and creative freedom. From emerging artists going viral to the ethics of AI-powered remixes, you'll hear how today's music industry is changing in real time and what it means for your career. Plus, Karan offers actionable advice for artists and music professionals on building a global fan base, mastering content strategy, and why having a plan is more important than ever. You won't want to miss this insightful, inspiring, and future-driven conversation. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Insiders! Are you an aspiring musician, artist, band, or future music business professional looking to take your career to the next level? Well, look no further. At MUBUTV, we offer personalized career counseling and coaching designed specifically for folks like you.
Imagine having both of us by your side, guiding you through every step of your music journey. Our sessions are tailored to meet your unique needs, focusing on critical aspects of your music career, such as refining your songs, defining your artist story, identifying your target audience, and enhancing your social media presence, just to name a few.
Whether you're just starting out or looking to elevate your existing career, we've got you covered. Our comprehensive approach ensures you get insights on everything from live shows to branding and marketing strategies. We understand that every artist is unique. That's why our coaching is personalized just for you.
And here's the best part. We offer flexible coaching packages that fit any budget. Choose from individual sessions ranging from 30 to 90 minutes, or save with our discounted 4-session packages. Experience custom sessions designed to enhance your music career, with opportunities for greater savings when you choose bundled sessions. Investing in your musical journey has never been more accessible.
Imagine the clarity and direction you'll gain after just one session. The feedback on your songs, the strategies to grow your audience, and the confidence to perform live, all tailored just for you.
So why wait? Don't let uncertainty hold you back. Join us for your free 15-minute discovery call at book.mubutv.com for a transformative coaching experience that will elevate your music career. That's book.mubutv.com.
Hi, this is Jeremy Yohai, Senior Vice President of A&R at Concord Music Publishing, and you're listening to the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is Karan Bhatnagar, a digital strategist and the forward-thinking force behind Hook. This was a very, very, very important conversation, and one that I think our listeners need to understand. You know, we've had guests before. Who was the woman that we had a couple years ago who did the
tracks being erased?
For sports. What's important about it, and where the connection between her and Karan comes in, is that we are finding new ways to monetize music music legally and getting artists paid. And that's the important part. I mean, when you look at like the viral growth for emerging artists, remixing, it can often skyrocket today for smaller artists, linking their music to well-known songs for artists such as, how Julia Klein, I think he mentioned, the track Echo gained traction. What's important about this is that, I think he also spoke about the fact that so much of the music on social media platforms isn't licensed. It's sped up, it's remixed, it's, and nobody's making any money from it, although it's being used to promote things. He's actually offering you a chance to get paid, and most importantly, to give the data of who's listening, which is most important.
Yeah, one of the other things that I thought was the remix accessibility. This is something that was close to me because I'm thinking about, I've actually done a couple of remixes for my single, but I want to put this out into the world and see what people can bring back as far as remixes for my track. And Hook lets non-musicians, which are like dancers, lifestyle creators, etc., remix music easily, removing the barriers for broader creative participation that was once limited to those with production skills. So I think that that's a really unique angle that Karan has with Hook.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this used to be something that was controlled by the label. They would hire a remixer, pay them a certain amount of money, and get, 6 mixes and put out a 12-inch single if you were lucky in the old days.
Right.
Now, we're seeing a multitude of uses for music, but mostly it's not necessarily the usage as much as it is the benefit to artists and songwriters.
It's another music discovery platform.
Absolutely.
And with that, insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation from Muse Expo 2025 with Karan Bhatnagar.
Karan, welcome.
Nice to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, and welcome to the show. With social media's influence on music consumption growing so rapidly in these days, how do you envision Hook's role in reshaping the relationship between artists, fans, and the broader music ecosystem?
Well, it's interesting. I think, AI has changed a lot, especially over the last year. And there's been a lot of conversation on what's ethical and what's not, what can harm artists and what can help artists. I think the stance that we've taken is we want to approach this in an ethical way. If AI is going to be here, and it's going to be here, there's no need to, fear monger over it. There's no need to be scared about what's to come. It's going to be a part of our lives. How for this specific industry can we make it by the artists, by the rights holders, and how can we open up new marketing and revenue streams for them? So for us as a company, what we've done is we've taken a very rules-based approach when it comes to AI. And we've said, okay, how can we harness AI as a tool to help artists grow in this new age? So instead of, going to a platform and saying, write me a 3-minute song that sounds like this and talks about this, and it spits out this perfect 3-minute track, we're saying, why don't we take something that exists? Why don't we allow fans and creators and artists to remix it in a different way, mash it up in a different way? It's behaviors that we're already seeing on social media today. Nearly 50% of the music on TikTok is modified. It's sped up, it's slowed down, it's mashed up. But it's happening without rights holder approval. It's happening without artist visibility. But what it's doing is it's driving consumption. It's driving streaming. You're seeing, an artist like Tyla on TikTok who has, 5 different remix versions of Water on TikTok going absolutely nuts, and you're seeing it impact consumption. So it's about how do you harness that? How do you create control around it? And that's what we're doing at Hook, is we want to create an ecosystem where people, fans, artists, creators can do this, share it to their social media platforms so they have a better chance at marketability while getting that visibility and control that they need.
Karan, thank you so much for joining us on the show. You literally just took the words right out of our mouth, and you've said that nearly 50% of songs on social media are remixed in some way.
Crazy stat, right?
Yeah, and yet the current music economy doesn't fully support this form of social streaming.
Right.
How does Hook ensure that both emerging and established artists are fairly compensated for their creative contributions in this space?
So we have people talk about streaming 2.0 today, right? And there's been a lot of conversations about what streaming 2.0 looks like. Well, in our estimation, streaming 2.0 is taking the consumption and revenue model from streaming, which, is Spotify the best use case? Maybe, maybe not. But what they have done is they've compensated rights holders, right? Social media is not doing that today. TikTok is giving, I don't know how much they make, let's call it $2-3 billion a year. They're giving 1% of that back to the music industry. That's nothing. And when you look at social media in aggregate, if you added up all of the minutes on social media today, they are more than people stream on DSPs. it's incredible, but the economics don't match. So, what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the conversation. We're trying to say, what is streaming 2.0? Well, why don't we take the streaming model and apply it to social? Why don't we say, not nearly as much as Spotify, but why don't we take a fair rev share, and for anything that's consumed, shared, developed on Hook, we're giving an a equal fair share back to the rights holder pool, and we as a company are keeping a fair share ourselves. So it's taking the inspirations of what's working on social media, taking the economics of streaming, and kind of blending those two together.
Amazing.
Can you share with us or walk us through the process of securing, the music licenses with major and independent labels, and how these collaborations will change the way music is shared and monetized on Hook?
Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
Say that.
Yeah.
It's
I wouldn't think it would be easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, the majors especially are, listen, if you look at these contracts, they're archaic contracts, right? The legal standards by which this industry has been propped up is very old and is very by the book, and it's that for a reason. There needs to be control around art, right? And for us, we're not trying to come in and modify that at a great scale. We're not trying to do what a lot of these other generative AI companies are doing, which are all being sued now, by the way, because they haven't built it in the right way. We're trying to take an approach that is familiar to them. So, when we talk to the major labels and independents and distributors, by the way, a lot of the conversation is, listen, it's about user behavior. This is action that's happening today, right? Creators and fans are remixing music, and you're not getting paid anything from it. So how can we create an ecosystem that allows this to happen while providing you the data, and you now do get revenue from it? And that's been really, it's been a warming conversation. Our CEO often talks about, back when streaming started, it was pulling teeth, right? It was pulling teeth to get these deals done because they're like, this is a new frontier. Well, with social today, there's a reason UMG takes all of their music off of TikTok. There's a reason why you're seeing Believe, Sue. You're seeing all of these things come out in the press, and it's because there isn't some sort of fair compensation model. So, going back to your question, it's that's been our approach in these conversations is, we can show you the platform, we can show you, how amazing and fun it is, but at the end of the day, here's how it benefits you. And what we're trying to do is unlock a new segment of the music revenue economy, and that's been, I think, the most warming piece of the conversation when it comes to majors and distributors. But they're big companies, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take different mindset. So it's just about plugging away. But if we're coming to it with the right mindset, with an ethical approach, I think it's better than what's happening today.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, I remember when, just the whole concept of remixes back in the day is, back in the day, you'd have to hire the person,
right,
get them the tracks, you'd pay them a fee, and they would give you X amount of mixes for that fee, 6, 8, 9 actual physical different mixes. You'd have to, the artist would have to approve it all. A 12-inch was pressed, or a CD, and then it was put out. So it's, and to your point, which is interesting about all of this being done without monetization, is that, one of the comebacks I've heard when I would mention that is, but we're contributing to the artist's visibility out in the marketplace.
Sure.
We're exposing Selena Gomez to another segment that wouldn't be there.
Yep.
So we're contributing in a way. So it's a consciousness that you face.
Absolutely. And by the way, that's a true statement. It's absolutely correct. But there's no reason why it can't be both. Right? There's an ecosystem where people can get compensated in the right way, they can be controlled in the right way. Because if you also think about artists, right? Let's take Selena Gomez. Does she want her music slowed down or sped up or turned into some pop punk record? Maybe not, right? But fans are doing it today. If we can create an ecosystem at Hook where on a filter by filter, and our sound filters in the app are genre filters. So if you think about like when Instagram started, they released photo filters, right? So you can change your image with, sepia and all these different ones. Those are kind of what our sound filters are like, is you can take a Selena record and you can make it sound pop punk or Afrobeat or drum and bass. But if Selena or her label doesn't want that to be the case, then we can turn that filter off. Right? So it's a granular control that like now as an artist, you feel a lot more comfortable with people remixing your audios. And now if something does go viral, you still have that marketability that you were talking about and that global scale. But if something takes off, you now have the revenue opportunity too.
which is Fantastic opportunity. You know, Karan, ethically built AI tools are a key part of Hook's strategy. How do you ensure that these tools empower creators and enhance their music experiences without infringing on their creative controller rights? You kind of touched a little bit on that, but...
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I think the model that we've taken is one of CapCut. If you're familiar with what CapCut has done in the video editing space, it's, you know, it's essentially made it easier. It's by no means perfect, but it's made it easier for people to kind of, you know, be a professional-ish looking video editor. And you don't have to open up Adobe anymore. You don't have to open up iMovie. You can do things. So, you know, what we're likening ourselves to is the CapCut for music editing. And from a creator perspective, what we've seen and some of the great behaviors that we've seen in the app today is creators that are dancers or lifestyle creators or people that typically are not, you know, music leaning, you know, they don't know how to use music tools. They now have the ability to remix in a way that they could never do before. Because the way it's done today is you open up GarageBand or you open up Ableton or Pro Tools and, you know, you speed it up, you slow it down, you change the genre, you do all these things to it, you add your video on top of it, and then you share it to social media. That's a difficult process. It's a 2 to 4 day process for people that even understand those technologies. Through Hook, you can now do it with 5 minutes. And, you know, speaking about the ethical piece of it, it's exactly what I was mentioning about the controls. You know, it's like we want to be able to, from a rights holder perspective, give as much control and visibility to them as possible. And that can be on a song by song, catalog by catalog, you know, level. To the point where, you know, if we're talking with Sony Music and they say, well, I don't want any of my songs mashed up with Universal, we can turn off that. If they're saying, I don't want my songs shared to TikTok, which, you know, we frankly believe that's where the consumption's happening, so we would push for it.
Right.
But, you know, if Universal's another argument with TikTok and they're saying, no, we don't want to share there, we can turn that off. So we can sandbox everything as well. So it's, you know, it's a mix of providing the right tools and making sure that the artists and the rights holders feel comfortable about it. And I think the key with that is not growing too quickly and making sure that everything that we're building falls within our ethical standards as a company.
Hey, insiders, we hope that you've been enjoying our featured conversation. Stay tuned because we've got so much value coming your way. But before we dive back in, a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Eric, as an artist, what do you find are the most challenging aspects to a music career, especially when you're starting out?
Well, I think one of the first things is just trying to get the direction of who you are as an artist, where you want to go, where you want to be. And, you know, we've talked about it on the show a lot. Who is your target audience? Who you are? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think would resonate with an audience? And so those are some of the things that I would feel being a new artist. Obviously, what I know now is different because I know these things, but for people that are out there like our audience that don't have necessarily any direction to go would be the first things that I would start off with.
And having the songs that
Absolutely.
incorporate those elements that you're speaking of into it. That's so important today.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we started MUBUTV and why we started this new consulting service that we're offering to all of our insiders out there, because that is another one of the big things. I mean, that is the big thing, is like having the great songs. That's what it really starts off. Our friend Don Grierson always said, it always starts with a great song. So that's probably, besides putting together what your audience and what your target audience is the single most important thing. Where are your songs at currently today? Are you collaborating with people? Are you trying to go out to networking events where you can connect with other songwriters and stuff like that? So
yeah, and what are your strengths?
Exactly.
You know, are you a strong lyric writer? Are you a strong melody writer? Are you a strong musician, a player?
Right.
You know, and it's really important to get really strong clarity on those issues before proceeding.
I totally agree, Rich. And, you know, with our consulting services, we offer a myriad of different packages and we've made it super affordable for everybody. So, you know, if you guys are interested out there in connecting with us on a coaching call, you can visit book.mubutv.com and start off with a free 15-minute discovery call.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There we start with an initial 15-minute call where we can get a sense of who you are, what are the issues that you specifically have, right, and want to work on.
Exactly.
And we can go from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we tailor everything to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. We kind of really want to get to know who you are as an artist, where you at today, what's the snapshot of you as an artist today, and then start trying to craft something that's tailor-made for you. So again, if you're interested, visit us at book.mubutv.com for your 15-minute discovery call.
You've talked about some of the, you know, great people that you've worked with, you know, producers, creators. Can you talk about some of the success stories that Hook has had so far in terms of the creative space?
Yeah, I mean, one particular one that I'm really passionate. Well, I'll say two actually. But the first one is this artist named Julia Klein, who you may or may not have heard of, but she's a relatively small emerging artist. And I say this to say, it's not the biggest artist name, but it shows you the behavior and the opportunity for emerging artists on our platform. Her song is this dance record called Echo, which is had a bit of a moment on TikTok in Europe and kind of fell off there, but it's a familiar sound. The thing that we've seen in terms of behavior on the app is people love remixing it. And when you take a Julia Klein record and you mix it with a Teddy Swims song or with a Justin Bieber song or, with another artist song on our platform, Charlie XCX, it instantly drives more visibility on her because she's tied to an artist of more notoriety. And if you look at Echo on our app, it's one of the most consumed tracks on a platform. So now you have thousands of people that may not have heard of Julia Klein and may not have heard Echo, and there's tremendous visibility around it now. So, it's not the biggest artist name, but I'm really passionate about this approach. It's giving emerging artists a completely new way to kind of interact with their audiences and potentially have something that puts them, to the next level in their trajectory.
That's amazing. Yeah, because it's showing it in a microcosm of what can be.
Exactly.
And what can become.
Exactly. And the other, stuff that we're working on is, as people are blending and mixing genres, it opens up your scale from a global perspective, right? So you're seeing people now turn songs into Afrobeat records, K-pop records, Indian records, and you're now reaching a visibility with our creator base on platform that also has a global reach that allows us to kind of take artists and songs and expand them into different audiences globally too. So that's really exciting for us.
Karan, as social media and streaming platforms continue to evolve, how do you see the balance between maintaining a platform's artistic integrity and meeting the growing demand for user-generated content and engagement?
It's tough. It's a very difficult push and pull. I think as platforms develop, and I'm not just talking about Hook, but as other platforms develop, there's a very important key thing that they need to look at. And that comes down to, and by the way, coming from artist management, I always have this artist first integrity approach.
Right.
But as you're building a business, that's what needs to be core. And it can be someone building a super fan subscription like Spotify apparently is trying to do. It can be a new business that's trying to engage something in the live event space. It can be something like Hook that enables remixing. But as you have a key understanding of UGC, user bases, artists, you need to make sure that you're doing everything by the book. And it doesn't necessarily need to be by the legal handbook, but it needs to be by the book of how this industry has been developed. Because we've seen situations of companies that have grown in immense scale and have had, great storylines, but fizzle out, right? And they fizzle out because, at some point, either a platform kind of consumes them or what they built was not scalable enough for the industry that we work in. So I think for us as a company, as we, bring more creators into the platform and focus on more users, our goal is to make sure that our tools that we're creating are super easy and the data tracking around all of that is something that's really, really important. When something is created on Hook and shared to TikTok or Instagram or another platform, we create a monthly data report and we send that to the label and rights holder so they can see in real time or real enough time what's being consumed, how it's being shared, and also given, the plethora of our filters that we have in the app today, it shows them how people are consuming with music. So I think it's just about transparency and visibility as you continue to grow.
Given your background in digital strategy with 360 management, how do you approach designing campaigns for Hook's platform that drive revenue and virality?
I think revenue is definitely the second piece. I think for us, it's about creating a moment for the artist. During my time at 360, I worked on, a wide variety of artists, notably Calvin Harris, and with someone as large as Calvin, it's very difficult to decipher fan base. You want to be able to understand what his fans want while being able to market and target the larger market. And, it was also interesting when I, was at 360. 2020 is really the year when TikTok started really pushing artists in a completely different way. So you take those learnings and you take those behaviors and you understand, okay, how are we driving campaign strategy and how is that impacting the music? And it involves the artist. It has to have the artists that are bought in. a lot of the campaigns that we're developing for Hook today are to drive virality on social, notably Instagram and TikTok. But the artist needs to be leaned in. The artist needs to be excited about what we're building. They need to be part of the campaigns. They need to be part of the storyline, because when that takes place, then their fan bases are activated. We could easily do something in the app today, and we can have something that lives as a sandbox, and we can not have the artists involved, but we really want the fan bases involved, because that's what's going to take them to the next level. And if you think about it, if you're a fan of a Tyler the Creator or one of these like enigmatic artists, you want to be able to be part of that journey when they're providing something that's completely new, like remixing. There hasn't been, to my knowledge, remixing at scale with the controllability and ease that there is today with Hook. And if that's the case, I know if I was a fan of an artist, I would definitely want that artist involved and would want to know how I can be part of that journey.
Precisely.
Throughout your life, what books or films or documentaries have you found to be particularly inspirational to you professionally speaking that you could recommend to our listeners?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a huge basketball fan. So taking it out of music for a little bit, particularly a Kobe Bryant fan. So, a lot of how I come from the tech world. I grew up in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and I saw, Facebook and YouTube and all of these companies grow as I was growing up, which is mad if you think about it. But, what I really wanted to understand was, how can I motivate myself and how can I be different? Because what I didn't want to do was work in tech. I wanted to work in entertainment and music, but I didn't know how. And Kobe was a great inspiration to me because, there was never a pathway, but you get to find the motivation and the hunger and the drive to kind of develop that. And for someone that had zero experience in the music industry, I took that approach and I started cold emailing like 50 people a day for like 6 months.
Wow.
Used to come down to LA every other week, used to try and get my name out into this industry, try and network, try and do everything that I possibly can. So in terms of like a motivating factor, for me, it was him. But, for people that are, coming into this industry, a great knowledge base of a book is Don Passman's book.
Yeah.
And, Don was at South by Southwest when I was just there, and you can see the glimmer in these people's eyes when they see him. It's a really, really great handbook. It's like the Bible of the music industry.
It is. Yeah.
And it's easy to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's his gift.
Exactly.
And
it's easy to understand. And the beauty is he comes out with a new version every year.
Yes.
So there's always, I haven't read it.
Updated.
Exactly. I'm sure there's something about, AI and, streaming deals and things of that nature in today's edition. But for someone that, lived in the Bay Area, was in the tech environment and had no idea about music, reading his book in combination with doing all of the work I was doing was really, really helpful.
Did you get a chance to meet him down at South by Southwest?
I didn't. Again, it was such a madhouse.
We've had him on the show a couple of times.
We've had him on the show twice.
Yeah,
I've known him for many, many years, and we've had him on. I have the first edition of that. It's very small. Yeah, it's a very small one. I remember when I got it, I went down to his office and he signed it for me and everything. And it wasn't the... What he has always talked about with that book is the reason it's been so successful is because it got used and became used as the textbook to teach. He said that's the reason that the demand has always been there for him to do these constant new editions. And like when we did the 10th edition interview with him, he said it took him 4 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, to do the 10th edition, it was 4 years because he said so much had changed. And then the 11th
edition took like three. It takes basically 3 years for him to update it, but he took an extra year on that one because it happened to be a lot of
stuff.
It's such a mad process because if you think about it, him writing those 4 years, there's things that are happening
in real time.
He has to incorporate.
How do you incorporate? Yeah.
And he does definitely incorporate that stuff into it.
He's amazing. One of our team members is like a super fan, if you call it. So
of Don?
Yeah, Don.
Yeah.
So he went to the panel and he had Don sign the book and he came back and he's like, "Oh my God, I got
Don to sign it.
The Bible's been signed.
The Bible's been signed."
Yes, absolutely. He was here last year.
Was he?
Don came. Yeah, he was at one of the receptions here. It's very
incredible book. And the
incredible
other
guy.
thing I'll say is, like, for people you're listening that don't know what they want to do in music, you don't want to be. You want to be a manager, an agent. You want to work for a label. You want to work in sync, publishing, licensing. Like, it will give you at least a layman's understanding of like, okay, what direction should I go?
It's a great baseline book.
Yeah.
To me, it's like a great baseline to like kind
100%.
of all encompassing and then kind of get you going.
Yeah.
Precisely. What advice would you have for those who are interested in pursuing a career, a professional career in music today?
Wow. Well, one, don't pigeonhole yourself. It seems like on a, I was going to say yearly, but even on a monthly basis, there's some new platform out there, right? If you're an artist or you're a songwriter, social media is your toolkit. It's your ability to reach a global audience in a way that you've never seen before. And I would even go a step forward and say, be aggressive about it. Jump on these regional social media platforms in different countries. Weverse is huge in Korea. Red Note is big in China. India has their own version of TikTok. Brazil has their streaming platforms. Be everywhere, because you just never know what's going to take off. But put together a real great content strategy. And, what people liken to today is, what you used to see before, a lot of BTS content of tours going on and, bands going on tour and all that kind of stuff. People want to see the creative journey. People want to see the hard work that's being put in. People want to see you in the studio. They want to see you going out and trying to get these shows, playing at bars, playing at clubs, playing whatever you need to do. And, that creates an environment where people want to root for you. And I think gaining a fan base on social will eventually trickle itself into streaming. But, in addition to doing that, make sure that, the Don Passman book's great, but make sure you have all of your things set up in terms of making sure that when you are ready to distribute music, you're doing it consistently. What I often see is emerging artists and new artists today saying, okay, I have, 3 songs, I'm ready to release them. Then what's the plan after that? Because streaming is very difficult nowadays. You need to, create an environment for yourself to be above and beyond, and don't release music until you have 20 songs, right? Make sure you have a consistent 1-year roadmap of what's happening, so that your plan on social, matches up with that, and that you don't get stopped and your trajectory continues to go up. So yeah, I think it's really important to plan things out well ahead of time.
Yeah, and the key word you said is to have a plan.
Have a plan.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we would talk to, the emerging artists that I used to represent at 360, it would be about, and many of them were signed to labels, so we had a little bit of help, but many of them were very, very focused on the big ticket items. I want to play Roxy. I want to have a Billboard piece go out. And, those are great looks, don't get me wrong, but the real grunty, hard work, non-flashy stuff, which is I got 15 new followers today on Instagram, I got 3 new followers today on Spotify, that's the stuff that matters.
Those are huge wins, yeah.
Those are the wins that matter. Those are the wins that matter for these, especially these younger audiences, these Gen Z, Gen Alpha kids, and platforms like Hook, we hope to help that emerging artist journey. We want to create an environment for people to, like a Julia Klein, where, you can get discovered in a completely different way. But doing the heavy work, having a plan, being consistent about it, I think is key.
Karan, what's the best way to contact you? Is it through the website?
Yeah, through the website, hookmusic.com. We're live in the App Store in every country, basically. Just type in Hook Music, play with the app. There's, support within the app. The best way to contact me, on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, website, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
We want to thank you so much for taking the time
Karan,
to come in and
great conversation.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Has my brain spinning. I love it. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for doing it. Really, really important stuff. Really important. Eric, this was a conversation I think that our insiders need to know about, because it touched on something that may not have been deliberately stated, but I want to state it here for our insiders, which is that one of the things that I thought was most important is, he spoke about the idea of visibility.
Yeah.
Okay. This is something that, in previous years, Bob Lefsetz has talked a lot about. And it's a very important component that in the world that we live in today, attention, visibility is more important than necessarily, how much money they're going to pay you.
Exactly.
Because, you can get double the rate on, this many streams.
Right.
So you were
But it's the future that you're building towards.
And
so when you get to that critical mass, then
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what he talked about here, is that he's providing another platform to not only provide that visibility, but to pay you. And his point that I thought was so well taken is the fact that a lot of this is happening in the past illegally.
Right.
It's just being put on, it may provide the visibility, but you're not getting compensated.
Right.
He's talking about compensating people, but more importantly, providing a vehicle for exposure and visibility, which didn't exist. That's the more important
And
component
that's what I was
here.
just going to say. I couldn't agree more. That's the most important part of it. Also, one of the other areas which I thought, and this is going back to what you're talking about with the artists, on the importance of small wins. This is really important, guys. The real grunchy, and I quote, hard work, non-flashy stuff, which is like, I got 15 new followers today on Instagram, or I got 3 new followers today on Spotify. That's the stuff that matters. And that's what Ritch is talking about, building on those small wins. This is a battle of attrition. Remember, I always use that expression. You're running. I mean, I don't want to bring politics into the mix, but it's almost like you're using the metaphor of that you're running for a presidential campaign. You're trying to shake those hands, kiss those babies, and each one that you get is one step closer. And so that to me is the stuff that matters. Those are the wins that matter, especially for these younger audiences.
Absolutely. And it's a perfect metaphor for the world that we live in today, that, it's not about a race that you can just, finish in sprint in 1 minute. It's a marathon. And you got to be able to go, like you're saying,
the distance,
26 miles, the full distance. That's what's most important today.
Hey, Insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at MUBUTV.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.